The air in the dorm room was thick and sweltering, the ancient air conditioning unit having finally given up with a pathetic groan hours earlier. Leo tossed and turned in his top bunk, the sheets sticking to his skin. His roommate's snores from across the room were a steady, rattling bass line, punctuated by the high-pitched whine of a lone mosquito. Sleep was a lost cause. He remembered the new event that had just dropped for his favorite online shooter. With nothing better to do, he figured he might as well find his gaming partner for a few rounds. Squinting against the sudden brightness, he unlocked his phone, his thumb moving automatically to his messaging app. He found his usual partner's contact and sent a quick message before his eyes could fully adjust. "You up for it tonight?" The phone's glare was piercing in the pitch-black room. He immediately switched over to the game launcher, the familiar loading screen a welcome distraction. 5 long minutes passed, and his partner's icon remained stubbornly offline. Leo muttered to himself about how slow his friend was being tonight. Just as he was about to switch back to the messaging app, his partner's status flickered to green. "Took you long enough," Leo typed. "I was about to die of boredom." Without waiting for a reply, he eagerly started the matchmaking process. The competition was fierce tonight. He found himself sitting up, completely absorbed, the oppressive heat of the room forgotten. He methodically checked his weapon, loaded a fresh magazine, and locked onto a target. A single, clean shot. His reflexes were unusually sharp, and he and his partner moved in perfect sync, easily making it to the final circle. He was so engrossed that he failed to notice he had sent his initial message not to his gaming buddy, but to Caleb, the stoic, 6-foot-tall roommate who had just moved in. Caleb was an enigma, a guy who kept to himself. He was impossibly handsome, a top student, and built like an athlete. The kind of guy with a chiseled jaw and a subtle, intimidating confidence. That very afternoon, Caleb had emerged from the bathroom with a towel slung precariously low on his hips. Droplets of water traced paths from his damp hair, over the sharp line of his collarbone, and down the defined ridges of his abs before disappearing beneath the towel. Leo, caught off guard, had nearly dropped the bottle of water in his hand. Caleb had seemed equally surprised, clearly not expecting to find another roommate in the suite on a weekday afternoon. They had simply stared at each other for a beat, the steam from the bathroom fogging the air between them. Caleb's voice, a low and resonant hum, had finally broken the silence, asking if there was a clean towel. Leo had stammered an affirmative, grabbing a fresh one for him. He'd risked a single, fleeting glance before whipping his head around, a frantic mantra running through his mind. "I'm straight, I'm straight, I'm straight." He looked down, feeling the heat creep up his neck and into the tips of his ears. Pathetic. The thought, once planted, began to sprout uncontrollably. He wondered, with Caleb being so good at everything else, what he would be like at gaming. Suddenly, the curtain of his bunk was yanked aside. Caleb stood there, his face a thunderous mask in the dim light, making Leo jump. Before he could react, Caleb swung a long leg over the railing and climbed directly into the bunk with him. He roughly pulled the headphones off Leo's head and braced himself on his hands directly above him. Through the discarded headset, Leo could faintly hear his actual gaming partner's confused voice, asking why he'd just let himself get eliminated outside the safe zone. But Leo couldn't answer. Caleb's gaze was so intense it felt like it could physically burn him. The dorm room was suddenly dead silent, the only sound their breathing, the only smell a faint, sharp scent of whiskey. Leo didn't dare breathe, his hands pressing weakly against Caleb's chest to push him away. He asked what he was doing. Caleb gave him no room to maneuver. He grabbed Leo's ankle, his mouth moving to his earlobe. A wave of warmth spread across his skin as Caleb bit down. Not hard, but with undeniable pressure. His voice was a low growl, questioning Leo for asking what was happening when he was the one who had sent the text. Leo's struggle ceased, his mind blank with confusion. Do what? Seeing Leo's genuinely baffled expression, Caleb seemed to think he was playing games, and his frustration grew. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, and Leo had to look away. Caleb, however, wouldn't allow it. His thumb and forefinger gripped Leo's chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. Strands of dark hair fell across his forehead, adding a disheveled intensity to his look. Their eyes locked, and Leo was momentarily stunned. Caleb spoke slowly, each word dripping with cold anger, accusing him of being the type to act innocent after starting something. Caleb grabbed Leo's phone. Under his threatening glare, Leo reluctantly gave him the passcode. Caleb's long fingers tapped the screen, bringing up not their message thread, but the game's end-of-match summary. It was clear that after Leo's untimely demise, his actual partner had also been taken out, leaving them with a second-place finish. Trying to clear up any misunderstanding, Leo quickly explained that it was too hot to sleep, so he had asked his gaming buddy to play. He assured Caleb they had only played for half an hour and that he had been wearing headphones the whole time. He remembered the time Caleb had woken up their other roommate just to tell him to snore more quietly. At that moment, Caleb opened the messaging app. At the top of the list was a 1-minute-old message from Leo's friend asking if he was ready for another round. And right below it was his own contact, labeled Caleb, with a notification bubble showing 99+ unread messages. Leo squinted, his glasses on his nightstand, but he couldn't quite make out the details on the small screen. He could, however, see the look of utter shock that washed over Caleb's face. Caleb's brow furrowed in disbelief, his dark eyes reflecting Leo's own confused expression. He asked, his voice hesitant, if Leo meant he was up for a gaming event. Leo confirmed it, explaining that a new mode had just been released. Caleb's face darkened instantly. His thumb flew across the screen, deleting their entire chat history. Then, he tossed the phone onto Leo's chest. As he left the bunk, the cold aura radiating from him felt potent enough to replace the broken AC unit. Before climbing down, he muttered for Leo to look at who he was texting next time. A moment later, a small, battery-powered fan landed on his mattress. Leo stared at the now-blank chat history with Caleb on his phone, then at the small fan providing a welcome breeze. The whole situation was bizarre. The commotion had finally exhausted him, and a wave of sleepiness washed over. But his sleep was restless, disturbed by a phantom tingling sensation on the earlobe where Caleb had bitten him. The next morning, he stumbled into his 8A class just as it was starting. His gaming partner and childhood friend, Ryan, had saved him a prime seat in the back and was waving him over. Ryan was practically buzzing with frustration, lamenting how close they'd been to a record-breaking win and asking how a sharpshooter like him could have choked at the last second. Leo could only mumble an excuse about Caleb climbing into his bed in the middle of the night. Ryan's eyes widened. He leaned in, a wicked grin spreading across his face as he asked if Leo had been having a wet dream about him. Leo didn't grace that with a response, instead delivering a sharp kick to his shin under the table. Ryan's grin vanished, replaced by a serious expression. He told Leo he'd heard that Caleb was bad news, that he had once knocked a guy out with a single punch in the middle of class. The story went that Caleb's CEO father had to donate a new library to the university to make the problem go away. Ryan warned Leo, with his slender build, to stay far away from him. As Ryan was speaking, a hand clapped down on his shoulder. He turned around, annoyed, and froze. Caleb stood there in a simple black t-shirt, framed by the light from the hallway, his broad shoulders and narrow waist creating a powerful silhouette. His features were sharp and defined, carrying a cold intensity that seemed at odds with the summer morning. Ryan, who had been so bold a moment ago, now looked like a mouse cornered by a cat, embodying the distinct awkwardness of someone caught gossiping. Caleb's long fingers tapped lightly on the desk. He asked calmly if he could sit there. Ryan, stammering, assured him he could and then, abandoning his friend to the lion's den, grabbed his books and scurried to a seat several rows away. It wasn't until halfway through the lecture that Ryan seemed to remember that it had been his seat to begin with. That familiar, uncomfortable feeling returned. Caleb sat beside him, effectively boxing him in. He calmly listened to the lecture, his pen gliding across the paper with clean, decisive strokes. As he wrote, the veins on the back of his hand became faintly visible. Leo's mind was a chaotic mess, flashing between the image of Caleb emerging from the shower and the memory of his heavy breathing from the night before. The entire class was an exercise in torture. He picked up a pen and started spinning it nervously. Caleb had a reputation on campus for being brilliant, wealthy, and aloof, with a face that could make anyone's heart skip a beat. Since moving in, he had maintained a formidable distance from everyone, which made his recent behavior all the more confusing. Leo was lost in his thoughts when the professor's voice cut through the haze, calling out a student ID number to answer a question. Leo's blood ran cold. In his shock, the pen flew from his fingers, clattering onto the floor in the space between Caleb's feet. He looked at the pen, then at the complex equations on the board, and then at Caleb's empty hands. His brain short-circuited. It was Caleb's pen. His only pen. Caleb seemed to be in a bad mood, his face an unreadable mask as he sat perfectly straight. Leo scrambled to bend down and retrieve it, completely forgetting that his ID number had been called. The professor, hearing no response, called out the number again, this time adding his name. Misfortune loved company. Leo stretched his arm out, his throat pressing uncomfortably against Caleb's knee, making it hard to breathe. In his panic, he tried to use Caleb's leg for leverage, but his hand slipped, and he tumbled forward again. A large hand shot out, catching his chin and steadying him, saving him from face-planting into Caleb's lap. Just then, the entire class turned to look. From a third-person perspective, it must have looked like Leo was burying his face in Caleb's lap for reasons best left unimagined. A wave of whispers and stifled giggles rippled through the lecture hall. The social death was absolute. His mind raced through 100 different escape plans before settling on simply playing dead. He didn't know the answer to the question anyway. But then Caleb raised his hand and answered the question with effortless precision. The professor, satisfied, nodded and moved on. Leo waited until the heat in his face subsided before slowly sitting up. He scratched the back of his head awkwardly and offered a quiet thanks, promising to buy him a pizza sometime. Caleb picked up his pen, lost in thought. Just when Leo thought the incident was over, he heard that deep, magnetic voice again. It was intentional. Leo was confused. Caleb looked at him, his eyes searching. He asked again if he had done it on purpose. Leo assumed he was talking about the previous night. With anyone else, he would have been annoyed, but for some reason, he didn't want Caleb to have a bad impression of him. He swore that last night was just about the heat and the game. Caleb seemed to sigh, cutting him off, and then asked almost shyly if they were still doing it tonight. Leo confirmed they were. A limited-time event with rare loot was too good to pass up. After a long pause, Caleb stated that he would join them. Leo was surprised, asking if he wasn't going to the gym. Caleb's reply was a simple no. The lecture dragged on. Hidden by the desk, Leo stretched and rested his head on his arms for a short nap. Caleb's brow furrowed slightly as his gaze fell on the sliver of skin exposed where Leo's shirt had ridden up, before he quickly looked away. That night, the gaming duo became a trio. During the first match, Leo carefully instructed Caleb, the newcomer, not to wander off and to stick with them to find gear. Caleb gave a cool nod. A moment later, Ryan started the round with a spectacular kill, securing a prime location. Leo let out a customary whistle of approval, then noticed Caleb's character was nowhere to be found. A few seconds later, a notification appeared on the screen. Caleb and their randomly matched fourth teammate had been eliminated by a single headshot. There hadn't even been time for a revive. The cause? Caleb had been shooting at his own teammate, attracting enemy attention. Ryan's slightly strained voice came through the headset, laughing it off and suggesting that Caleb must be too used to studying to be familiar with game controls. Caleb's voice was flat, devoid of emotion. He ignored Ryan's placating and said to start again. In the second match, Caleb was taken out by a bot. When Leo went to revive him, he was sniped. When Ryan went to revive Leo, he was also sniped. Their whole squad was wiped out before they even left the starting area. The third match, they miraculously survived until the final circle. The tension was palpable. Then, Caleb's gun went off by accident, revealing their position. They lost again. They played until midnight, enduring 13 consecutive losses, until Ryan finally clutched a win with a single, well-placed grenade, taking out the last 4 opponents. A private message from Ryan popped up on Leo's screen. "He's actually terrible. I swear a chicken pecking at the screen could play better. If it wasn't for you, I would have bailed hours ago." Leo felt a prick of annoyance and was about to defend Caleb when he paused. He and Ryan had been gaming together for over a decade, and they had never hesitated to kick an underperforming player. Just then, Caleb stood up and happened to see the last line of Ryan's message on the screen. "If it wasn't for you." While Ryan was still insincerely praising Caleb's rapid improvement over the comms, Caleb crossed the room in a few long strides and stood before Leo. Leo looked up at him, puzzled. Caleb's lips were pressed into a thin line, his long lashes casting shadows over his cheeks. After a long moment, as if steeling himself, he met Leo's eyes and asked if Ryan was into him. Leo's internal alarms went off. He asked uncertainly who he meant. Ryan? He scoffed at the idea, insisting that Ryan was as straight as they come. The room fell silent. Leo snuck a glance at Caleb's face and saw a complicated expression he couldn't decipher. From the headset, Ryan's voice boomed, announcing that he was going to shower before the water was shut off in 5 minutes. The sudden noise made Leo jump. He realized that he and Caleb had also been too absorbed in the game to shower yet. Their other 2 roommates were out with their girlfriends for the night, including the RA who was supposed to manage these things. Muttering under his breath about friends who forget their suffering roommates, Leo rushed to the balcony to grab his towel. Caleb stood by the bathroom door, watching him with a calm, unreadable expression. As Leo hurried back, Caleb simply nodded and said he could go first. Leo replied that he probably couldn't finish in 2.5 minutes, and then joked, asking if they should just go together. Caleb's expression turned serious. "Okay," he said, and grabbing his own towel, he walked into the bathroom. Leo had only been kidding. He stood frozen in the doorway as Caleb turned his back and pulled off his t-shirt, revealing a perfectly sculpted back. The muscles were well-defined, emanating pure masculine energy. His loose sweatpants hung low on his hips, every line of his body speaking of strength and youth. This was the kind of physique that didn't just turn heads. It could turn Leo into a puddle. He hesitated until Caleb turned his head. silently urging him to come in. Screw it, he thought. We're both guys. What's the big deal? He took a deep breath, stepped inside, and quickly stripped down, turning on the shower. To his surprise, Caleb seemed less composed than he was. After grabbing the shampoo, he kept his back turned to Leo, the tips of his ears turning a bright red. Seeing Caleb flustered was a novel experience. Leo found it amusing and teased him, asking if he was from the South, explaining that guys in the North were used to communal showers from a young age. He and Ryan had done it all the time as kids, though it was never this stimulating. Caleb changed the subject, asking why he played games with Ryan. Leo explained it was mostly to team up for events and get free gear. Caleb's response was immediate. He would buy it for him. Leo was taken aback. The complete set of gear was expensive, worth nearly 3 months of his allowance. Caleb's voice was low and husky, the usual coolness replaced by something that sounded almost like gentle possession. He added that Leo wasn't allowed to shower with Ryan again. With that, he quickly rinsed off and left the bathroom as if fleeing from a monster. Leo finished just as the lights flickered and died. "Caleb?" he called out into the darkness. A towel was draped over his head, followed by a gentle ruffling motion. Caleb's soft "yeah" was the only response. The room was black, steam rising from the bathroom. They stood there in silence. They were so close that Leo could just make out the shape of Caleb's dripping hair, his tightly pressed lips, and the crimson hue of his earlobes. Even after he was back in his own bed, Leo's head was spinning. His phone lit up. It was a message from his RA from half an hour ago, in response to his complaint about the water shutoff. "What? I told Caleb about it this morning." Leo threw back his curtain. Caleb was in the middle of pulling on a shirt, his muscles flexing with the movement. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting a hazy glow on his form, making him look even more striking. But that wasn't the point. Leo held up his phone, a silent accusation. Caleb's face was unruffled. He simply reached out and ruffled Leo's hair. I forgot," he said. Leo, seething with a mixture of embarrassment and indignation, snatched his phone back and was about to close the curtain when a hand caught his wrist. Caleb's hand was warm, his thumb gently caressing the soft skin of Leo's inner wrist. His eyes were dark pools, his expression unreadable. He asked if the offer for dinner was still on the table. Leo, uncertain, suggested the next day. Caleb usually spent all of Saturday at the gym. The friction on his wrist was generating a slow burn, and he tried to pull his hand back, but Caleb's grip tightened for a moment before relaxing. He placed the small fan back in Leo's hand. His deep voice echoed in the quiet room, sending ripples through Leo's heart. "Okay." Leo didn't sleep a wink that night, the little fan buzzing beside him. It was over. He was pretty sure he was bent. But what about Caleb? What was he thinking? The little debaters in his head were going at it all night, chanting a hypnotic mantra. "You're gay, he's gay, you're both gay." Caleb was gone early the next morning. Leo stood in front of his closet, cycling through outfits, dissatisfied with everything. He deeply regretted not buying more clothes. At the very least, he wanted to look good if he was going to pursue someone. His other roommate, who had returned late, poked his head out from his bunk and whistled, asking if he was going on a date. Leo mumbled an affirmative. The roommate critiqued his outfit, calling it a bit much. Leo looked at himself in the mirror and realized his friend was right. He was wearing a floral print button-up over a black graphic tee, cargo joggers, and leather sneakers. He had even used cologne and put in the black stud earring Ryan had convinced him to buy. He looked like he was trying to max out his style points in a video game. Resigned, He took it all off and decided to splurge on a new, more appropriate outfit. The restaurant was a sushi place not far from campus. It was a bit pricey, but the atmosphere was nice. When he arrived, Caleb was already waiting, leaning against the glass wall with his hands in his pockets, surrounded by a small crowd of girls asking for his number. When he saw Leo, he said something to them, and they all turned to look at Leo before dispersing with knowing smiles. As Leo got closer, he noticed Caleb was also in a new outfit, his hair perfectly styled. What was supposed to be a casual dinner between friends had somehow turned into what looked and felt like a date between a couple in their honeymoon phase. And oddly enough, it felt good. That good mood lasted until he sat down and Ryan, working as a waiter, approached their table with a tablet. With a professional smile, he informed them that the gentleman had pre-ordered the couple special for two. Leo's eyes went wide. He demanded to know why Ryan hadn't mentioned this detail when they were planning it last night. The special cost a fortune, nearly half a month's allowance. He and Ryan had schemed to use the dinner to test Caleb's feelings, but it seemed his co-conspirator had defected. Ryan gave him a look of pained exasperation and frantically motioned with his eyes, insisting it was the restaurant's signature deal and suggesting Leo think carefully about whether or not he had a partner. Leo thought Ryan's eye was twitching. He was about to slam the table and ask for the manager when Caleb calmly reached across and wiped a drop of water from the corner of Leo's mouth. "Yes," Caleb said, his expression serene. "We're a couple." "Excellent choice, sirs. Your food will be out shortly," Ryan said, turning on his heel and disappearing with remarkable speed. The dishes arrived one by one. The meal was going smoothly until Caleb picked up a piece of sushi with his chopsticks and held it to Leo's lips. He gestured with his eyes to a nearby table where a couple was affectionately feeding each other. Caleb explained that the couple special had rules, and if they were caught faking it, they would be thrown out. Leo, not questioning it, opened his mouth and ate the sushi. Feeling a bit awkward, he reciprocated, picking up a piece with his own chopsticks. As he extended it towards Caleb, he realized he had just used those chopsticks himself and started to pull back, but Caleb ate it without a flicker of hesitation. That was an indirect kiss. Leo put his chopsticks down, his ears burning. He mumbled an excuse about needing the restroom and fled the table, leaving his phone behind. In the bathroom, he stared at his reflection. His face was slowly turning a deep shade of crimson, the color spreading down his neck. He was as red as a boiled lobster. The noise of the restaurant was a distant hum, drowned out by the frantic pounding of his own heart. He splashed his face with cold water several times, waiting until he felt calm enough to return. When he walked back out, the restaurant was in chaos. Caleb was fighting a guy with bleached blonde hair. Caleb, a gym regular, was more than holding his own against the punk, landing solid punches. As he moved, his shirt rode up, revealing the hard planes of his abs. The blonde was quickly overpowered, with Caleb pinning him to the ground and raining down blows. 1, 2, 3 heavy punches. Ryan ran over to Leo, panting, and said that it was the same guy Caleb had fought in class. He had no idea what set him off this time. Leo shook his head, about to intervene, when he overheard one of the girls who had been watching say that the blonde guy had said something crude about Leo, claiming he looked like he'd been used. Leo's steps faltered. He turned to the girl, his eyes wide with disbelief, and asked what she had said. Hearing his voice, Caleb stopped. The fury in his eyes subsided as he stood up, tossed a black CR card to the owner to cover the damages, and pulled Leo out of the restaurant, leaving the blonde guy groaning on the floor. When Leo returned from the pharmacy with supplies, Caleb was leaning against a wall in the alley, smoking. His hair was messy, but his face was unmarked, and his knuckles were only slightly scraped. He stared into space, the cigarette glowing between his fingers, his expression unreadable. Leo walked over, took the cigarette from him, and took a drag like he'd seen in movies. He immediately started coughing, his lungs burning. They passed it back and forth in silence until it was nearly gone. Leo dropped it and crushed it under his shoe. "Was that for me?" he asked. "Yes." "Why?" Caleb's eyelashes fluttered, shielding his dark eyes. He looked at Leo, his gaze deep and shadowed. A thought, an idea, was beginning to bloom in Leo's mind. His phone was still at the restaurant. He borrowed Caleb's to text Ryan and ask him to bring it back. As he opened the app, he noticed a pin chat at the top with his own profile picture and the contact name set as a single heart emoji. The last message was from October 7th. "Are they taller than me? Stronger than me? Better looking?" Caleb was in the shower. A sour, jealous feeling began to bubble up in Leo's chest. He pushed it down and logged into his own account on Caleb's phone. As he was about to search for Ryan's name, he saw Caleb's chat history with him from his own account's perspective. The date at the top was October 7th. His heart skipped a beat. His fingers, seemingly with a will of their own, tapped open the conversation. The screen was filled with a sea of green message bubbles, all from Caleb. Reading through the unfiltered, drunken confessions, Leo's face ignited. When Caleb came out of the bathroom, he found Leo standing there, red as a tomato, holding the phone up like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Caleb glanced at the screen, and his own ears began to burn. He admitted he'd had a bit to drink that night and had been out of line. He lowered his head, his long lashes hiding his eyes, looking like a guilty puppy awaiting his punishment. But instead of an explosion, he heard Leo's flustered, indignant voice. "If you like me too, why didn't you just say so? Why did you delete our chat history?" "Too?" Caleb looked up in surprise. He saw Leo, trying to be intimidating but failing, his face a mess of conflicting emotions. Caleb had an overwhelming urge to kiss him. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile, and confessed openly, "I like you." The next morning, Ryan returned the phone with a knowing, mischievous grin, asking if they had been together for a while. Leo, who had just taken a sip of water, sprayed it all over the floor. He vehemently denied it, but his heart was hammering against his ribs. On the walk back to the dorm, Ryan waxed poetic about love being about a connection of souls, not a restriction of gender. He encouraged Leo to be brave and take the first step. Leo nodded along non-committally, still unsure if a single confession counted as them being together. As he opened their dorm room door, he was still arguing with Ryan. "I told you there's nothing going on between us right now." The first thing he saw was Caleb walking out of the bathroom, holding a freshly washed pair of Leo's underwear. Leo was speechless, pointing from Caleb to the underwear, unable to form a coherent sentence. Ryan was even more shocked, his finger jabbing back and forth between them. "Wow," he said. "And you said there was nothing going on." Caleb looked at Leo, his handsome face impassive. He methodically clipped the underwear to a hanger, walked to the balcony, and hung it up to dry. He returned, twisted the cap off a bottle of water, and took a long drink, his Adam's apple bobbing. A drop of water escaped and traced a line down his neck. A cool, faint smile touched his lips. "I'm a bit of a clean freak," he said. "I saw it and washed it." Ryan muttered under his breath about wishing his own roommate had such a pee. Leo's brain had completely shut down. He had distinctly seen his other roommate's clothes soaking in the sink, untouched for 2 days. Ryan, taking the hint, grabbed the notes he came for and left, giving Leo a conspiratorial wink on his way out. A text message followed moments later. I get it. Couples thing. The calculus professor assigned homework that was due that same night. For someone like Leo, who barely paid attention in class, it was a nightmare. Worse, the problems were original, meaning no answers were available online. He sat at his desk, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Caleb leaning back in his chair, wearing headphones and watching a video, looking completely relaxed. Caleb had a perfect GPA last semester. These problems would be child's play for him. The thought of asking for help bloomed for a second before Leo ruthlessly crushed it. It would be too awkward. Time ticked by, and his paper remained blank. He was staring into space when a familiar scent enveloped him. Caleb was leaning over him, his arms braced on either side of his chair, his body close. His steady breathing brushed against Leo's neck, sending a tickle down his spine. Caleb asked in a low voice which problem he was stuck on. All of them, Leo mumbled, his face flushing as he looked down. Caleb's long, elegant fingers tapped the desk, and he began to explain the first problem, his voice a calm, steady murmur. But Leo's mind wasn't on calculus. The proximity, the posture, was sending all the blood in his body south. He shot up from his chair, grabbed a jacket from the back of it, and draped it over his lap, spouting a ridiculous lie about the AC being too cold and not wanting to get an upset stomach. Caleb glanced at the thermostat, which read 78 degrees, but said nothing. He just silently adjusted the temperature up and angled the vents away. Leo sat stiffly like a first grader, finally starting to understand the concepts as Caleb explained them. He picked up his pen and began working through the equations. Caleb watched him for a moment before his gaze drifted to the boy in his arms, the fine line of his neck, the way his hair fell across his forehead. The answer is 1/3, right? Leo asked, triumphantly looking up. As he turned his head, his lips brushed against the corner of Caleb's mouth. The touch was cool and soft, like Caleb himself, yet surprisingly gentle. For a split second, it was almost a real kiss. Time seemed to stop. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice was even as he replied, "Correct." He pursed his lips, his gaze flicking away from Leo's face. From Leo's angle, he could see Caleb's eyelashes trembling slightly. Despite his calm expression, he seemed shy. Looking at Caleb's profile, Leo swallowed hard, the question buried deep inside him finally bubbling to the surface. So what are we now? Caleb's hand slowly covered Leo's, his fingers lacing through his. A lifelong commitment. Late one night, Caleb announced that he had accidentally spilled water all over his bed, making it impossible to sleep on. He looked at their roommates with a straight face. They all expressed their sympathy. Only Leo saw the glint of calculation in his eyes. The RA looked at Leo apologetically and asked if he would mind sharing his bunk with Caleb for the night. Their other roommate chimed in that he couldn't, as he had to maintain his purity for his girlfriend. Leo looked from the empty water glass on Caleb's nightstand to Caleb's award-winning performance of a distressed victim and agreed through gritted teeth. The curtain was drawn, enclosing them in a tight, dark space. The twin bed was barely big enough for one person, let alone two grown men. Caleb lay on his side, trying to give Leo as much space as possible, but their skin inevitably touched. Things were calm until Caleb's hand shot out and caught Leo's, which had been creeping steadily downwards. "What's wrong?" Caleb's voice was a low whisper. "A mosquito bit me," Leo whined. "On my inner thigh." Caleb shifted, trying not to make a sound. He used his phone's flashlight to inspect the area. Leo was about to protest when he heard their roommate across the way whispering sweet nothings to his girlfriend on the phone. He immediately fell silent. Thankfully, Caleb did nothing more than look before returning to his original position. He stated matter-of-factly that saliva could help with the itching. Leo shot him a venomous glare before giving up and lying flat on his back. He couldn't win. He really couldn't. He thought he would be up all night, but surprisingly, he slept soundly. When he woke the next morning, their positions were reversed. He was the one on his side, with one leg slung over Caleb's waist and his head resting on Caleb's arm. Caleb was lying perfectly still on his back. Caleb turned his head, wrapped an arm around the back of Leo's head, and pulled him into a fierce kiss. He didn't let go until Leo was gasping for air. Leo panted, biting his lip, his eyes hazy. Caleb watched him for a long moment before letting out a ragged sigh. "We need to move out." Leo thought he was joking, but within a week, Caleb had secured the paperwork for them to live off campus. Their roommates' jaws dropped. Leo just laughed, shaking their hands and telling them they would be invited to the wedding. Caleb, walking past with a suitcase, coolly corrected him. "You're definitely invited." The new apartment was in a building just off campus. As Leo looked around the cozy, lived-in space, he asked Caleb why he had bothered with the dorms if he already had a place like this. "Because you weren't here," Caleb replied simply. The news that they were together spread quickly through school. One evening, Leo, Caleb, and Ryan were teamed up for a new in-game event. Ryan was still green with envy over the full set of premium gear Caleb had gifted Leo. It turned out that people who were naturally smart picked things up quickly. After a few days of intense practice, Caleb had mastered the game. He was now a killing machine, racking up headshots with terrifying efficiency. Their fourth teammate was a classmate. Ryan was bragging to him over the comms about how he had known all along that there was something special between them. A moment later, a notification popped up. Caleb had sent Ryan a new set of premium gear. Ryan was ecstatic. "Thank you, Dad. I wish you and other Dad 100 years of happiness and a beautiful life together." Leo burst out laughing at Ryan's shameless flattery. He turned to share the joke with Caleb, but was met with a look of serene contentment. Caleb slowly took his hand, his grip firm and his voice clear and full of conviction. "We will."